delighted and honored to start off with the Women Entrepreneurship Conference. I would like to thank everybody for putting this conference together, and I would like to hand it off to the conference chairs right away because we have a very packed day and a very exciting day. So let's start. The conference chairs is Mrs. Shuruk Zidan, Maria Fernanda, Ines Gabaret, and Maria Pasran, Dia Yusuf, and Vicky Sayanu. And so I'll hand it off to you and let's officially start. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ayman El-Tarabishi. Greetings to everyone. We are delighted to be opening the first ICSB Women Entrepreneurs Conference. I would like to share with all of you how this activity started. After a Spanish webinar entitled Women Entrepreneurship with Challenges and Barriers that I did with Dr. Ines Gabaret, Dia Yusuf from Indonesia called us telling us that we needed to repeat that experience in English. So we called another three bold women, Dr. Maria Fernanda Andres, Shuruk Zidan, and Vicky Stalino, and we began to dream big. We started a WhatsApp group on August 20, having our meetings every Thursday from New York, Paris, Buenos Aires, Jakarta, Cairo, Melbourne. 6 cities, 6 women organizing the first ICSB Global Conference of We and daring to dream big. After 65 years of history of ICSB, this is the first global conference from women to women. This is a milestone. And as the US Vice President-elect Kamala Harris said, while I may be the first, I won't be the last. This may be the first ICSB Global Week conference, but it won't be the last. From the beginning, we got the support of the chair of the board of ICSB, Ahmed Osman, ICSB President and CEO, Dr. Ayman El-Tarabishi, and of the chair of elect of ICSB, Dr. Winslow Sargent. 3 men supporting women's ideas and new winds of change like the slogan, he for she, but trespassing the campaign and becoming a reality in our lives. As women, our resilient attitude comes from the many validations we need to go through until our ideas are accepted. We are passionate and creative in solving the challenges of these times, and we are very optimistic about the future that we want for our communities. That is why we need more women entrepreneurs around the world. That is why we are organizing this global conference to showcase concrete actions of women empowerment around the world. Many thanks for joining us in this movement. Women dare to pursue creative solutions for greater global impact. And now I would like to share the floor with my colleague Ines Gabaret, who is going to give you more details about these 2 days that we are going to start right now.
Thank you, Analia. Hi to everybody. I want to thank also all the wonderful women that accept to meet today and tomorrow for this new virtual conference on female entrepreneurship. Our idea came first from the fact that female entrepreneurship grows every year all over the world. Just to tell you an example, in France, 40% of business creation is by women. And if we look at the survival rate of these companies at 3 years of the creation, is bigger than in the case of women than in the case of men. But how, as a teacher of entrepreneurship, when we're entrepreneurship, most of the examples that we use are from men creating businesses. And we see a lack of role models, of female role models in entrepreneurship. So talking about that after the webinar with Analia, we decided that it was a good idea to organize a conference to showcase real stories of women entrepreneurs, to learn from them, to understand the barriers they overcame, and to listen to the advices that they can share to other women who wanted to have more impact in society. So we have organized this conference also following the most important topics of research in female entrepreneurship. Okay, so that's why the first day we are going to talk about conciliation between motherhood and business, which is one topic that we study as researchers and entrepreneurship, and we call that mompreneurs. We are going to talk in another panel about resilience, which is an important concept of motivation and on self-confidence. We're going to talk in another panel about financing women projects, which is a subject that it is studied also a lot in the literature on entrepreneurship. And we're talking about of leadership, feminine leadership. And this is the first day, more oriented research. And the second day, we are going to focus on specific cases, such as women in technology, such as women active for climate change, women in health, and young women doing business. So these 2 days will be an important moment of sharing and inspiration. And we are really excited to be here with all of you. And to end this first part of introduction, I have the honor to give now the word to Ahmed Osman, who is the chair of the board of the ICSB, and he's going to do the opening of this conference. Thank you. Ahmed.
You're on mute.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is a great honor for me to be here opening our first Women Entrepreneurship Global Conference. This is a great initiative, and I would like to thank all of our women leaders who have organized this conference. ICSB has gone through a lot of transitions over the last year. We are embracing, as we call, the technological advances. But one very important fact is we really cherish all women leaders who are our members, and also we would like to create more impact around the globe. Micro, small, and medium enterprises are a major source of growth, innovation, and jobs all across the world. They create most of the employment and represent 90% of the business population. They're the key for creating 600 million jobs. They are the key to creating 600 million jobs needed by the UN by 2030. The contribution of micro, small, and medium enterprises is key to sustainable development, and it is with great pleasure that we can see that there's a lot of change happening, a lot of policies being created to empower women entrepreneurs. A few notes we have noticed is we need to create institutional diversity and capacity in the different countries of the world to support women entrepreneurs. We require designing supportive tools for them, whether funding tools or even training and capacity building. And we also understand the challenges facing women entrepreneurs globally. So just to conclude my opening remarks, we as ICSB support this conference and support women and entrepreneurs. And we look forward to engaging in discussions over the next few days. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Ahmed, we are going to start the first panel, the first session.
So to start the session, I would like to invite Ms. Alexandra Robinson, Global President of ISEC in Canada, to give her welcoming remarks.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the world. My name is Alexandra Robinson, and I'm the Global President of ISEC. ISEC is a global youth-led organization focusing on developing leadership in young people through the facilitation of cross-cultural exchanges and internship and volunteer opportunities. ISEC is present in over 110 countries and territories, and annually we facilitate over 40,000 cross-cultural exchanges with a membership of over 40,000 young people. We believe that developing leadership potential of all young people, including young women, is the key to unlocking a better future for all. Earlier this year, the International Labour Organization reported that COVID-19 had had a devastating impact on youth employment, leading to the emergence of a lockdown generation. young talent and young women today are facing a labor market where the rules of the game have changed fundamentally. At the same time, they need to prepare for an uncertain future of work with a fast-changing demand for skills and experiences. And this is where the relevance of this conference theme today, Women Dare to Pursue Creative Solutions for Greater Global Impact, becomes so relevant. When we talk about the future of work, we are really simultaneously talking about the world's youth population and the need for entrepreneurial skill sets. According to the World Economic Forum, 65% of children in primary school today will need jobs when they enter the workforce that don't currently exist. That's a great call for the need for entrepreneurship, even before we faced a global pandemic. And the pandemic we face today, according to the Secretary General of the United Nations, is the greatest challenge humanity's faced since World War II. And young people, especially those 18 to 24, and women are disproportionately impacted by this crisis. I believe you could tell just by looking at me that as a female global president of a youth-led organization, I feel a particular responsibility to speak for these underrepresented populations. There are many ways, from mental well-being to civic participation, that COVID-19 has impacted young people and especially young women. The pandemic is inflicting a heavy toll on young workers, destroying their employment and undermining their career opportunities. And so today, when we speak about creative solutions for global impact, I think it's compelling to note that 1 in 6 young people who were employed before the outbreak began have stopped work altogether. Again, those younger workers and those women workers. And so events like today are highlighting the call to action that ISIC shares with women entrepreneurs, that young women need to be involved in the creation of their own future. And this future involves the future of their work. Young people are agile and entrepreneurial. They are digital natives. They're the people that don't have the same learning curve as senior leaders in adopting the new necessities of technology. They are the people launching startups and creating solutions to humanity's enduring challenges. Any business leader worth their title knows that the competitive advantage talent can bring is significant for an organization. Today, at a conference bringing together women entrepreneurs across ages, across regions, across industries, I encourage you to take a meaningful look at the way that young women entrepreneurs can be included in a better future. We all know that as a global society, our initial crisis response to COVID-19 did not do enough to include these young entrepreneurs in the future. I believe that the invitation of ISIC here today to show our support for the ICSB Women Entrepreneurs Conference as a meaningful collaborator in this event is an example of organizations that see the value of young women being involved in the creation of the future. It's our responsibility to create a better future, and I encourage you to leave this opening ceremony of this conference remembering the idea that young women should be included in your ideas and your solutions and your plans. I hope you enjoy the next 2 days of the ICSB Women Entrepreneurs Conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Youth are very important and they represent around 1 billion people around the world. So I think empowering young women is essential for the world development. Our next speaker is Ms. Barbara Rambosek, Gender and Economic Inclusion Director, EBRD in the UK.
Good morning and good afternoon and evening. I'm really delighted to participate in this event today. I think this is a very important discussion to help us to better understand the gender gaps in access to finance and entrepreneurship, and very importantly, how the current crisis affects these, and then to explore ways in which we can work together to build back better for all. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. At EBRD, we invest in supporting our countries of operation to become sustainable market economies. What we mean by that is that these are economies that are well governed, resilient, competitive, but also very importantly that they are green and inclusive. That means that they are creating opportunities for all. We do this by investing primarily in the private sector. 75% of our investments are in the private sector, and by leveraging these investments to support policy reforms in priority areas. To date, we have invested over 10 billion euros in projects with inclusive aims, as well as an additional 2 billion euros in 2020 alone to support an inclusive COVID crisis recovery and to build back better. The way we define our inclusive investments is that they are those that create access to skills, jobs, entrepreneurship and finance, as well as services for women, but also for other groups such as young labour market entrants or populations in underdeveloped regions, but also people with disabilities, for example. So specifically, when we look at access to entrepreneurship and finance, a focus on SMEs, and in particular those SMEs that are led and managed by women, is key to the EBRD's work. And here the challenges are enormous. If we look across the EBRD region, only about 18% of SMEs are led by women, compared to an even smaller share of only 10% for large companies. With regards to sector representation, almost 3 in 10 retail firms are led by women, compared with less than 2 if we look at sectors such as manufacturing or services. The funding gap for women entrepreneurs is huge and continues to hover around $1.7 trillion US. According to data from the latest EBRD, EIB and World Bank enterprise survey, 63% of women-led firms that needed a loan in Central Asia, for example, were credit constrained. That means they were either discouraged from applying for a loan or rejected when they applied, compared to 58% of men-led firms. In Russia, these figures were even higher at 85% of women-led firms being credit constrained, compared to 72% of men-led firms. Women in the EBRD region still lag behind in access to finance compared to other advanced economies. According to Findex data, most of the EBRD economies are still characterized by a large gender gap in access to bank accounts and saving accounts at financial institutions compared to countries in Western Europe or the US. And all these numbers I just told you were before the COVID crisis hit. Since then, the situation has become even more complex and difficult. The impact of the crisis is not gender neutral, quite to the contrary. It entrenches existing inequalities and may even dial back many of the advances that have been made over the past years and decades. Women are more likely to work in sectors that are hit hard by the lockdown restrictions, such as services, retail, tourism, hospitality, and to be in informal, temporary, part-time, or less well-protected jobs. The majority of workers in the healthcare and general care sectors are women. In addition, women have taken up a large volume of the unpaid and care work that is happening and that needs to happen at this moment. And we are seeing rising incidences of gender-based violence and harassment attributed to the heightened stress and financial difficulties experienced during lockdown. Women entrepreneurs have been particularly hard affected by the crisis due to characteristics of their businesses, their risk preferences, and their limited access to finance. As is the case for employment, women entrepreneurs are overrepresented in sectors impacted by the lockdown. The characteristics of their businesses, which are smaller and carry lower cash reserves than male ones, adversely affect their ability to weather the crisis and achieve a fast recovery. Women entrepreneurs also tend to be more risk averse than men, particularly when responding to stressful situations, and enjoy relatively limited access to information, professional networks, and support. This makes it more difficult and costly for them to establish business relationships and accumulate organizational capital. Women-led SMEs find it harder to apply for formal credit, even in normal times, a challenge that is further exacerbated by the crisis now. Women are also often hindered by their lack of access to basic financial services such as checkings and savings accounts, and have fewer assets to pledge as collateral. Consequently, women are more likely than men to rely on informal, non-bank finance sources to run their businesses. However, as we know, during a crisis, these informal networks may be less able to inject the necessary liquidity. For example, the fall in global remittance levels that we are seeing at the moment hits women particularly hard. We know from a number of studies that women make up the majority of remittance recipients and are therefore more likely to face a decline in their business funding at the moment. But it is also the structure of the businesses that make a big difference. Women-led businesses are also often registered as sole proprietorships, leaving personal assets of the entrepreneur more vulnerable to negative shocks affecting the firms. And we know from a range of studies now that more women than men are involuntary entrepreneurs. That is, they start a business not to maybe pursue a particular idea or opportunity, but because there are no other means of economic support, or it is very difficult to find a wage job. To give you an example from our region, between 32 and 51% of women entrepreneurs in Russia, Egypt, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Lebanon, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Slovenia run their business out of necessity. which are some of the highest values that we see globally. Therefore, women entrepreneurs, business failure may result in them having no means of economic support at all for themselves and also for their families, making them, of course, more cautious and more careful when they look at investing. However, despite all of these challenges, we also see increasing evidence that women entrepreneurs actually display stronger survival skills in business compared to men, precisely because of this more cautious approach to support strategy, as well as a higher tolerance for more modest profit margins. So what can be done to support women entrepreneurs and create a more level playing field and to avoid a backsliding of equality gains made to date? Let me tell you very briefly what we do at EBRD. We have a program supporting women-led SMEs called the Women in Business Program. So far, we have extended over 550 million euros to 50 partner financial institutions for on-lending to women SMEs, coupled with business advice and capacity building of women-led SMEs. To date, over 70,000 women have participated and benefited from these programs across 23 countries, including in North Africa, Eastern Europe, the Western Balkans, Central Asia, the Caucasus, and Turkey. In addition, we have adapted our financing and advisory services to suit the new ways of working during the pandemic. We digitalized the delivery of our SME training programs and launched services that will enable SMEs to access business advisory networks and mentorship programs. In Uzbekistan, for example, we provide support to women entrepreneurs through online crisis mentoring and e-training in vital areas like managing remote teams, forecasting shifts in consumer demand, and inventory supply chain management. We are helping women SMEs to introduce digital solutions that make their businesses more competitive. This includes the introduction of mobile banking, cashless payments, or using digitally recorded transactions as a proxy for credit history. In July, for example, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Visa to support SMEs in accessing mobile services through digital means in Central Asia. We also help women entrepreneurs to tap into new markets, to support the development of early stage and digital startup finance, and to build the capacity of local consultants to deliver advice, specifically to women-led enterprises. We launched a Know-How Academy, which is a series of e-learning modules in various different languages, from Russian to English, Ukrainian. Finally, the pandemic has resulted not only in disruptions to global supply chains, but has also prompted thinking about how supply chains can be made more resilient, greener, and more inclusive in the future. It is not necessarily about shortening the supply chains or curtailing international trade, but rather about supporting companies to diversify their suppliers using tools such as e-procurement. This is coupled with capacity building of local SMEs to help them to meet the required quality standards. Finally, we also work with policymakers across our region to create an enabling ecosystem where women entrepreneurs can thrive. This ranges from advice to financial regulators on the development of financial inclusion strategies, but also a focus on sex disaggregate data in order to shape policy solutions. But there is a lot more to be done. No single sector or entity is able to tackle the enormity of the challenge on their own. So we need to work together, each playing our own distinct strengths and capacities in order to build back better and create a more inclusive and gender equal future. So with that, I very much look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Our next speaker is a fellow compatriot, and I'm very proud of what's happening in Egypt in the field of women inclusion and empowerment. We had the Year of the Women in 2017, and also we had lots of initiatives supporting women all around the country. So it's with great pleasure that I've introduced Dr. Maya Morsi, the President of the National Council for Women in Egypt.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a real pleasure to be with you today. I really enjoyed all the statements before me, and I'm happy to be with Shuru, my friend, as well on this very important event. Let me speak a little bit general in the beginning, because actually closing the gender gap in the economic sphere is very challenging, not only to Egypt, and I'm not going to specifically talk about Egypt, but this is a really global issue. I think most of you have read the Global Gender Gap Report, and if we notice the average that the world will close the gender gap in the economic sphere is 108 years. 108 years. So Western Asia is 61 years, South Asia, Western Europe, sorry, 61 years, South Asia, 70 years, Latin America, 74 years, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, 124 years, Sub-Saharan Africa, 136, Middle East and North Africa, 153 years, North America, 165, and East Asia and Pacific is 171 years. 108 years is, just calculate how many generations that are going to be speaking the same language as we are speaking today. Focusing on the entrepreneur, I love the word itself. I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a policy maker, decision maker, a politician, a women activist, but I love the field of the women entrepreneurs. I see them as really very empowered. They have the empowerment from their inside. They have the courage, they have the stamina to succeed, and they have their benchmark as well. So an entrepreneur needs to have a determined belief, and they have in what they are doing, and a cast iron as well to get things done. Women can get things done, and not only lobby to get things done. They love to enter into competitive process, and the marketplace is a ground field for the competition that we are determined to succeed. But this needs another step and another persistence and another challenge on the burdens of the women and the women alone. We played several roles. We are the mothers, we are the wives, we are the working mother as well. But we have on our shoulders two things: either breaking the glass ceiling, which is the rhetoric, but sometimes we are seeing as well that we have to melt the iron cast that we are straitjacketing ourselves in. So it's getting thicker, it's getting harder, and it's getting very challenging, and we have to continue the fight. So having to continue the fight, we have to show role models. And role models not only putting policies or suggesting policies, but how did they succeed? The new generation, I love the intervention from Isaac, and when the new generation, the new entrepreneurs, how can they succeed? What are the recipe? What are the recipe that I can encourage a younger generation that she can enter into entrepreneurship? And this is something that would lead to her success. So role modeling is something that we really have to focus on, and this is something we are working on in Egypt. Overcoming as well the self-doubt. The self-doubt is something that every single woman entrepreneur will I succeed? Can I succeed? Will I have the support? Can I do it? All these questions are coming up in our hearts, in our minds, and even if we have the courage to speak about it, we are speaking about it. And what if I failed? By the way, the policymakers are putting policies, and when they fail, there is no problem. We're not discouraged from going and putting a policy that it might work, it might not work. But the woman entrepreneur thinks 100 times, what if I did not succeed? Will failure kill me? Will it tarnish my reputation? Will I make mistakes? Of course, you are going to make mistakes. Of course, it's success or failure is 50-50 chance. And who doesn't? So you have the talent, they have the personality traits, you have the attitude towards business, you are overcoming the inner barriers, holding women back and from making it big. You're visionary, good networking skills. All these things are in the woman entrepreneur, and the woman entrepreneur only, by the way. You have a lot of things that differentiate you from the others. What I see as well from the women on the side of the comparison between the politicians and the entrepreneurs, and you have the perseverance. You have, if you succeed, you can have nurturing spirit that you can really get another wave with you. Very confident, and when you speak about money, you are very confident as well. You want to win, you want to succeed, you want to get profit. And what I see also in Egypt, that the women entrepreneurs are giving back to the society. They are caring more. They give CSR. They are engaged on the grassroots level, and they are between balancing their lives, and they are trying to do it. So they are succeeding in this. And again, they have the vision. I keep on saying in most of my talks that if we have to enter to a field, and we are asking real equality, and this does not mean valuing women on men terms. We are different. We are different. We are valuing women on our women terms, not as a successful man or as a successful businessman. The woman has other roles and other responsibilities, and this is why she has to be valued on the women terms. So that she has her choices, she has her policies, she has her culture, and this is also different than men. I love when I enter a field that we leverage the power of the men, inclusive process, inclusive approach, because we are going to succeed. We have to use them as they are adopting their own strategy, or actually we have to infiltrate their strategies and make it also our business. There are a lot of windows of opportunity, and I keep on saying that we have to teach our girls bravery, not perfection. We keep on really doing the things 100 times because we are perfect, and men are not. By the way, I'm sorry to the chairperson. You will take the risk and do it, but we want to do it 100% accurate. I can, with no doubt, that all the women on this call have studied and prepared their notes, and they have their notes written by their hands, and they have been rehearsing their notes. And we are, because we want perfections. We are perfectionists, and we want perfections. And we have family. We put our family in the dynamics of all our work. So when family comes first, this does not mean by any means that work comes as a second. Life comes together, life goes together, and a working woman has this into her dynamics. In Egypt, we have launched the Women Empowerment Strategy with a 4th pillar on economic empowerment. And I would give you some indicators of success to this moment. The strategy was launched in 2017, the year of Egyptian women, with a dedication, or the strategy moved along the 17 goals of the Sustainable Development Agenda. And Egypt was actually regarded by the UN agencies and the UN as the first country to develop the strategy based on these indicators. So percentage of SMEs dedicated to women increased from 23% in 2015 to 46% in 2018. The microfinance loans increased from 45% in 2015 to 69% in 2018. 70% in 2018 beneficiaries of MSMEs are women, and 30% of women investors in the stock market right now. We are working on financial education in online courses, financial inclusion from grassroots to the top level, handicrafts as a culture, a preserving culture. And we launched 2019 the She Economy with Women Economic Forum. This is considered the first world's e-commerce platform for women entrepreneurs worldwide for goods and services, and I encourage you to check it. It's a women-only platform, and the vision is that every woman is a businesswoman, and she can lead and connect and have her network also online. And the mission to empower and enable women entrepreneurs to sell, scale, succeed, serve, and sustain. These are the 5 S's that the platform is established on. Egypt is the one of the first countries also to provide membership to 59 women entrepreneurs. And I would like you to check the website and the platform. We are committed to have 6 types of intervention to bridge the gender gap in the women economic empowerment. First is financial incentives and support. Second, technology and infrastructure. Third, the creation of economic opportunities and publicize for them. Fourth, capacity building and capabilities building and development. Fifth is advocacy and shaping or reshaping attitudes. And sixth is the legislative and the policies, regulations, and reform. I would like again to help focus or suggest focus on 7 policies or 7 steps. The first is a gender-sensitive legal and regulatory system that advances women economic empowerment. Where are they and how we can affect them? Second is effective policies and leadership, and I see one of the sessions is on leadership. Third, access to gender-sensitive financial services. Fourth, access to gender-sensitive business development services support. Fifth is access to markets and technology. And sixth, representation of women entrepreneurs in participation in policy dialogue. Last, a strong woman is a woman determined to do something others are not determined to do it. And I do believe that entrepreneurs are leading your own life, have your own choice, believe in your strength. Be the real engine for the future and break the glass ceiling and melt the iron cast. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maya. I saw on the text, Annalie has posted that if you have any questions, can you please put them in the chat box so that we can start having questions to our speakers? Okay, so we have a question to Dr. Maya. It says, do you think the education system in Egypt encourages entrepreneurship? Does it equip students with the required entrepreneurial skills?
Actually, if I am going to generalize it, it's not all the educational system is encouraging entrepreneurship, but we have right now some schools that are focusing on this, STEM education and other schooling. But I do believe that entrepreneurship at large is a trait. It's either there or not there. And when you see it, is something that you can develop and build the capacity on. Of course, we need a lot of, let me say, generational and ideational change to put this in place. We are working on it. And especially for women, there are specific schools on the technical level to help women start their own businesses or start vocational training activities as well. Still, this is not a big, let me not put it this way, not a big success, but we are working on showing the role models. I kept on telling you that we need to show the role models for other younger generation to follow. And this experimental thing is happening as well. The role models are taking mentors and mentees from schools and from universities, so they train them and they help them in starting their business, or also they enter with them as angel investors.
Thank you very much for the answer. Our next question is to all the speakers. I think it's a nice question. Could the speakers exemplify one barrier that in their lives they have had to overcome, and what did they learn from this experience? So, who shall we start with? Volunteers.
I can start. Okay.
Okay.
I think the biggest barrier, and for mothers, especially mothers, are the guilt trip of leaving your child behind every single day and going to work. And this barrier needs a lot of support, and needs also men to support the working mothers to help elevating this guilt feeling. And the guilt feeling is continuing, especially for mothers. The second is the generational or intergenerational gap that we have. Usually when we started in a younger age, we kept on trying to show how we can do the job, how we can excel when we are in younger age. But I think right now, with the youth bulge that is happening, this is not a big challenge, but the overcoming of the intergenerational issue is that we have to prove that we are competent, we study a lot, we experiment, and we're not afraid of failure, and we learn from our mistakes. Thank you very much.
Barbara?
So I would add, when looking at the women's role as mothers, I think we collectively need to refocus this discussion from sort of raising the next generation being a challenge for mothers, for women, to raising the next generation being a challenge for society as a whole. It requires everybody. It requires the fathers and the male parts of the family just as much as the women, the mothers, the grandmothers, and others. And this is where the policy responses need to focus on. And this is also where the role models will need to be, fostered and brought more to the fore, I think. It's a fundamental shift of how we look at this. And I know this takes time. And it may take more time in some parts of the world than in others, but fundamentally that needs to be the trajectory, rather than trying to be better at multitasking. And fundamentally it's about that shared responsibility, and therefore the policies and the practices that need to support that. Because otherwise I think we will still keep a focus on supporting women to do it all, when clearly this is not possible and is also not what the best solution is in the long run.
Thank you. Alexandra?
So adding on to what the previous speakers have said, I would say looking at a barrier to participation as a young leader, I do think that that's something that many young women that want to create their own initiatives or have a voice at the table of meaningful change have faced at some moment in the early stages of their career. And I know that for me, it was just finding the opportunities to practice and fail. So organizations like ISIC that give young people the chance to lead projects, lead teams, lead organizations, be part of conversations, and to get it right sometimes and to get it wrong sometimes. Having those meaningful examples of times that you have led change, and also the times that you've learned from failure, I think is incredibly important for members of the younger generation to have that experience, because there's so much uncertainty, there's so much rapid change in the world, there's such a rapidly evolving need for new skills, for digital skills, for skills that the greater society hasn't fully mastered yet. And so just getting out there and getting your hands dirty is really critical, and really breaking those societal mindsets that youth is a barrier to participation and not actually an asset. So I think that it's just putting yourself out there is the advice I would give to young people, but finding those organizations that value the youth perspective, that are willing to collaborate in a meaningful way, whether that be an entrepreneurial initiative, whether it be the voice of young people in policymaking, whether it be the voice of young people in their education systems, just getting out there and breaking those mindsets that hold young people back from bringing their innovation to the table.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. I'm looking, do we have any other questions? Okay, so I think we have finished all the questions. Just to conclude this session, I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Dr. Maya Morsi, Barbara, and Alexandria, for a great session. I just want to conclude by saying that the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor Women's Report in 2018-2019 says that the number of startups by women worldwide still lags that of men, and the total entrepreneurial activity represents a very low percentage of the adult working population. And the report states that only 10.2% of new startups are led by women. GEM have produced these statistics by studying the habits and the behaviors of company formation in 59 countries and surveying approximately 231 million women. So I think there's still a gap. There's still a lot of work to be done. I thank all of our speakers for this excellent session, and I move the microphone now is with Analia, right?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Osman. Thank you so much for being a moderator of this opening session, and to all the speakers. That was a great opening, and I think that there is really connected with our next session,